দেখ হ্যাঁ রোদে আলোর জন্য দেখতে
All right, to our right, 7 miles up the Hudson River, we can see the George Washington Bridge. The George Washington Bridge was built there in 1930 by the great Swiss bridge engineer Othmar Ammann at the narrowest point of the Hudson River. A major artery here in the northeastern section of the United States, connecting I-95, the big north-south highway in Fort Lee, New Jersey, to Washington Heights, Manhattan at 178th Street and Broadway. The towers are 605 feet in height, the roadway 226 feet above the water, the span 3,500 feet from tower to tower, the most heavily traveled bridge in the United States, the longest steel suspension bridge before the Golden Gate Bridge opened in San Francisco later in the 1930s. As we progress down the Hudson River is 315 miles in length. It flows in both directions. The Atlantic Ocean pushing up salt water, fresh water being pushed down from upstate New York. 30 to 50 feet in depth in this vicinity, up to 200 feet in depth upstate New York. At its widest point, 3 miles in width upstate New York by the Tappan Zee Bridge, Nyack, New York. 3/4 mile in width on the west side of Manhattan to our left to Weehawken, New Jersey to the right. Weehawken, an Indian name that means rocks that look like trees. Indigenous people here 7,000 years before Henry Hudson discovered the Hudson River here in September 1609 while on the Half Moon ship. In 1608, Hudson, an Englishman, was charged by his employer, the Dutch Indian Trading Company, to look for northeast passages to Asia. Instead found the river here that now bears his name, and he told the Dutch they had to stay here because of all the natural resources that could be found in this area. The major commodity back in the days was the fur trade beaver pelt. Also, this was the oyster capital of the world. The mixture of salt and fresh water making the oyster beds very prolific. They were destroyed, however, by river traffic, industrialization, and factories spring up on the riverfront, dumping their waste into the water. However, it's been reported the oyster beds are reappearing, indicating the water is getting cleaner. To our left, behind the West Side Heliport, you see behind the trees of the West Side Heliport, you see an elevated train track right there. That was the old New York Central Railroad track where the freight used to come off of. Lay at Bannerford 25 years, has now been converted into a pedestrian park called the High Line. The High Line is a wonderful destination to go to after the boat ride immediately here on the west side of Manhattan, from West 30th Street all the way down to Little West 12th Street in Greenwich Village. The High Line, wonderful spot to go to. And to our left, we see a big brown industrial building with the gray water tanks on the roof. That has a connection to the New York Central Railroad track. The old Starrett Lehigh building built in 1930. They used to store the goods that came off the New York Central Railroad track. Ceiling height on the ground floor, 20 feet in height to accommodate the railroad cars. And then elevators to take individual railroad cars up the floors for offloading. Martha Stewart has a showroom in that building. To our left, you can see the line getting into the hot spot here on the west side of Manhattan on West 26th Street, the Frying Pan Bar, located on a railroad barge. That's the John J. Harvey fireboat that's moored there in 1931, retired, used for tours and special events. Behind the John J. Harvey, the larger Frying Pan vessel, 1929. Light ships like the Frying Pan and the Ambrose would escort vessels in and out of harbors that wouldn't run aground. The Frying Pan used to patrol the waters off of Chesapeake Bay down in Maryland, you know, in the days before radar. To our left, we see an example of Hudson River Park. 2 piers jettisoning out into the Hudson River, providing green space and park space for these neighborhoods here on the west side of Manhattan, like Hell's Kitchen behind us, Chelsea to the left, Meatpacking District, Greenwich Village, and Tribeca. These neighborhoods don't have any park space within them. This provides park and recreational space for neighborhoods like Chelsea to the left. Chelsea to the left, at one time a tough industrial neighborhood, now gentrified, being developed, as you can see. Matthew Modine, Ethan Hawke had apartments in Chelsea. To our left, in the foreground, we see the blue buildings of Chelsea Piers, a big sporting complex that opened in the early 1990s. That spurred the revitalization of Chelsea. One could partake in extracurricular activities like working out, basketball, bowling, mountain climbing, gymnastics. They built a driving range here to the left. Law and Order used to park their trucks and their equipment here, Chelsea Piers, Pier 59. To our left, behind the driving range, you see that white unusual building, that white building built by Frank Gehry, the IAC building. Looks like a lopsided set of playing cards. Some people say it looks like sails on a sailboat. To the left of it, the Mosaic condominium, no right angles in that condominium. To the left of the Mosaic condominium, that red brick building with the blue roof. That blue roof is actually iron guardrails. There's an exercise yard on the rooftop of the women's house of detention. So all you ladies on the boat, behave yourself. To our left, we can see the Empire State Building, 1,454 feet in height, 102 stories, built in 1 year and 45 days by 4,000 workers working 7 days a week, averaging 4 to 5 stories a week. In one 10-day period, they erected 14 stories. 14 men died in the Empire State Building. The Indiana limestone section, 1,050 feet, a 200-foot spire on top of it, and a 204-foot antenna on top of the spire, hence 1,454 feet in height. To our left, to the right of the Frank Gehry building, and to the left of that beige storage building, the purple sign at the base of it, now you see the elevated train track there of the High Line on West 18th Street. The High Line, again, a great destination. I highly recommend it. To our left, we see old Pier 54 damaged by Superstorm Sandy. At the foot of Pier 54, the wrought iron gate, the gate to nowhere of the Cunard Line. That's where the Titanic was scheduled to dock in. Instead, that's where the Carpathia went, where the Titanic survivors in April 1912. Behind the wrought iron gate, the two green buildings side by side, the Standard Hotel and the Meatpacking District on West 14th Street. Known as the Meatpacking District, where all the slaughterhouse and meat wholesalers were located. Most are gone now, replaced by high-end clubs, cafes, and restaurants. A prime nightlife destination, the Meatpacking District. Adding to that nightlife, the Standard Hotel there, they have a rooftop pool and a bar. That's where Jay-Z and his sister-in-law had to dust up in the elevator there a couple of months ago. Behind the Standard Hotel, you see that big red brick building taking up an entire city block. Looks like a factory. Well, it was. That's where your Oreo cookie was invented. The Nabisco factory from 1912. Now housing New York One, Channel One, the Food Network, Oxygen Network, Google, and Yahoo. Chelsea Market located there as well on 16th Street and 9th Avenue. You go to the High Line, you walk down the High Line to 16th Street and go to Chelsea Market for some fine food shopping and great cafes inside Chelsea Market. To our left, we just passed a 140-foot 343 fireboat named in honor of the 343 firemen who perished at the 9/11 attack. New York Fire Department has its own Marine Division. The department itself, founded in 1865, 11,000 members. To our right is Hoboken, New Jersey. Hoboken, loosely translated, means tobacco pipe. Hoboken, New Jersey, where the first baseball game was played in the 1840s, Frank Sinatra's birthplace and home of the Cake Boss. For all you Cake Boss fans, the Cake Boss is open up at Cake Boss Cafe in New York on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. So if you want a piece of buddy, go to 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. To our right, the oldest standing railroad terminal in the United States, the old Erie-Lackawanna Railroad Terminal, built in 1907. Grand Central Terminal on 42nd Street, built in 1913, celebrating its 100th anniversary, February 2013. To our left is Greenwich Village, the oldest neighborhood here in New York, named after a town in England called Greenwich, called a village because that was down here, little villages in the 1700s. All the streets in Greenwich Village going crazy different directions that drive the most experienced taxi driver crazy, and native New Yorkers like me up the wall. I still need a street map when I come down to the village. Why is that? It's the oldest neighborhood here in New York. When they laid out the streets of Old Greenwich Village, they laid it out according to its topography, according to the streams, the ponds, farms, marshes that were down here. The grid pattern not established till after 1811 north of 14th Street. Many celebrities live in Greenwich Village. Notice the three green glass towers to the left. Calvin Klein lives on one of them. He had to vacate his apartment because the basement was flooded out by Superstorm Sandy. Don't worry, Calvin don't live in the basement. That's where the boiler's located. Jumping Jack Hugh Jackman lives there. Jim Carrey lives there. Among the other celebrities that live in the neighborhood, Edie Falco, Sarah Jessica Parker, Matthew Broderick, Brooke Shields, Juliana Moore. Sadly, Philip Seymour Hoffman died across the way last February on Bethune Street. To our left, do you see that yellow water taxi pulling into Pier 45? See Pier 45, the white gondola on it? Okay, it's on Christopher Street. If you're looking to hang out in Greenwich Village, especially on a warm summer day, maybe tomorrow, you should go to Pier 45, because that's where all the boys and all the girls go there to let it all hang out. You don't have to go to the Hamptons, you have to go to Fire Island, you have to go to South Beach or Rio to see all the action on Pier 45, where most of the people that go to Pier 45 wear nothing but barely a smile. I kid you not. It gets hot, hot, hot there. I kid you not. To our left, Green Aviation Pier 40 to our left. For all you fans of Sex and the City, that's where Carrie went swinging on the trapeze. Remember the trapeze episode? The trapeze school is on the roof of Pier 40. To our left, ladies and gentlemen, east of Greenwich Village is Soho, south of Houston Street. For high-end shopping, high-end dining, and great nightlife, Soho can't be beat. Up and down Broadway from Houston Street to Canal Street to the left, great retail like Prada, Armani, Gas 9 West, Express, Steve Madden, H&M, Yellow Rat Bastard, and Bloomingdale's. Intersecting Broadway, Princeton, Spring Street, independent boutiques, galleries, showrooms, great restaurant and bar action. Soho is where it's at day or night. To our left, Do you see that blue glass tower staying off by itself on Canal Street? Behind it is Chinatown. To the left of it is Little Italy and Nolita, north of Little Italy. However, to our immediate left in the foreground is Tribeca, triangle below Canal, an extension of Soho, the old loft district where we used to store the goods that came off the docks, where the sweatshops and factories were located when this town used to produce goods. Now those loft buildings are converted to high-end real estate commanding up to $2,000 per square foot. Who lives in Tribeca? Jay-Z, Beyonce, maybe not no more. Harvey Keitel, Meryl Streep, Jeremy Piven, Daniel Craig, the late James Gandolfini, and of course Robert De Niro, who spearheaded the revitalization of Tribeca through his film center and restaurants named the Tribeca Grill. To our left, in the foreground, we see a new addition to Manhattan, Battery Park City, and the World Financial Center. Didn't exist years ago. When they were digging the excavation for the original Twin Towers in the 1960s, they had to put the 1 million cubic yards of landfill somewhere, so they placed it here. Beginning in the 1980s, began to develop the 85 acres in the Battery Park City, where Tyra Banks, Sacha Baron Cohen, Leonard DiCaprio, Steven Sciaruppa from the Sopranos TV show have apartments. To our left is the World Financial Center. 4 buildings ranging in height of 33 to 54 stories. The silver building on the left is the Mercantile Exchange. The building with the green pyramid, American Express. The building with the green dome, Merrill Lynch. To the right of Merrill Lynch, to Dow Jones. In between American Express and Merrill Lynch, that green glass enclosure right there, about 125 feet up. The Winter Garden, where they have palm trees inside, over 25 feet in height. Of course, on the far side is the New World Trade Center. The Freedom Tower on the left is now the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere at 1,776 feet in height. 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed in this country. The final installment of the 408-foot spire placed on the roof last July. The building itself is 104 stories, 1,368 feet in height. Altogether, 1,776 feet in height. Scheduled for opening later this year, when the big publishing firm of Condé Nast, Glamour, Vogue, Vanity Fair, the New Yorker magazines, will be moving in, and the primary tenant of number 1 tower. To the right of the Freedom, where number 1 tower is the first tower to be opened down here, number 4 tower, opening last November, topping out at 977 feet in height, 72 stories. 6 buildings will replace the 7 that were destroyed at the 9/11 attack that killed 2,793 people. The 9/11 attack will be with us forever. But why? 343 firemen, 23 police officers perished at 9/11. Another 65 police officers who worked down here in the weeks after 9/11 have died of cancer. Another 500 contracted some form of cancer. Many people do not realize that to this very day, over 1,100 victims have yet to be identified from the 9/11 attack. 1,100. That's why it'll always be with us. Okay? All right, to the right. I'll talk more about the memorial later. Well, quickly, to the left. I'm sorry. All right, in between number 1 and number 4 tower, that's the empty sky. That's where the Twin Towers were located. That's where the memorial is located. It's a beautiful memorial, the Twin Waterfalls, 30-foot recess into the ground, the footprints of the original Twin Towers. To our right, Jersey City, New Jersey. The Gold Coast of New Jersey. Many businesses have fled New York to Jersey City for cheaper rent and better tax breaks, especially the business displaced by the destruction of the World Trade Center, never to come back to New York, saying it took too long for the World Trade Center to be rebuilt. 65,000 jobs were lost in lower Manhattan in the wake of the 9/11 attack. To our right, the Colgate Clock and Sign, remnants of the Colgate factory that was there for many years. To the right of it, the tallest building in New Jersey, the 45-story Goldman Sachs Tower. Boo, Goldman Sachs. To our left. Now to the right of number 4 tower, to the right of it, do you see that old skyscraper, the green copper pointed top? See that old skyscraper, the green copper pointed top? That's the Bank of Manhattan Tower, built 1930, 927 feet in height. It's located on Wall Street. Its address is 40 Wall Street. Called Wall Street because when the Dutch were here in 1653, they erected a stockade from the Hudson River to the East River on the east side to keep out invaders from the north or behind us. But when the British came from the south or the sea in front of us in 1664, the Dutch acquiesced to the British without firing a shot. The Dutch are here to make money, not spill blood. That's when New Amsterdam was renamed New York after the Duke of York. That Bank of Manhattan Tower that you see there was once owned by Imelda Marcos. Remember her? And she sold it to its present owner, Donald Trump. She must have sold a lot of her shoes. That Bank of Manhattan Tower was the tallest building in the world for one day in 1930. And I'll show you the building eclipse the next day in 1930 in a few minutes. To our left, in the foreground, you see this unusual building. Looks like a beehive with the 6 ledges on top of it. That's the Museum of Jewish Heritage. Each ledge symbolizing 1 million Jews killed in the Holocaust, 6 ledges. To our left is the southernmost point of Manhattan Island called the Battery. Called the Battery because a battery of cannon were put here on the shoreline for the War of 1812 but never fired. The British Army came up this way during the War of 1812. To our left, we see Old Pier A jettisoning out into the Hudson River from Battery Park. The only letter-designated pier in New York. All the other piers have number designations. Pier A, built in 1886, a former fire station, has been rebuilt, will soon be a destination for shops and restaurants. The opening delayed by Superstorm Sandy damage. The 70-foot copper clock tower placed in Pier A in 1919 as a memorial for 116,000 servicemen killed in World War I. The most memorials to any war in New York dedicated to World War I. Behind Pier A, to the right of Pier A, and to the right of that brown building, can you see the top of that little building block building? To the right of the brown building, see that little building block? Looks like a box. For all you Men in Black fans, that's the Men in Black headquarters. That's an entrance to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. To our left, is Battery Park, built on 25 acres of landfill. Most of Lower Manhattan is built on artificial land called landfill. They did this in the 19th century to widen, lengthen, and smooth out the shoreline of Lower Manhattan to facilitate the docking of ships. Landfill consists of oyster shells, dead mules and horses, sand, dirt, logs, ballast of ships with garbage in them. Anything that can take up space was used as landfill. To our left, behind the Statue Cruise boat, the one on the left anyway, you see that red brick structure right there? That's Castle Clinton. Castle Clinton, one of many fortifications built after the Revolution to protect the harbor from invasion. Castle Clinton is to be 200 yards out into the harbor, but with landfill, Manhattan's now enveloped it, now part of Manhattan Island. Manhattan Island is 13.5 miles in length, from Battery Park in the south to Inwood Park on the upper west side of the Hudson River. At its widest point, 2.5 miles across on 14th Street. Manhattan Island, 26.5 square miles in area. 1.8 million people live in Manhattan Island. Mannahatta, an Indian name meaning land of many hills. Quickly to our right, you see the orange Staten Island ferry boat coming back to Manhattan from our 5th borough way over there. Where you see the other Staten Island ferry boat going to Staten Island, that's the Staten Island ferry. It's going to dock to our immediate left right here at the orange ledges at Staten Island Ferry Terminal. The Staten Island Ferry is a major commuter link between Staten Island, way over there, our 5th borough, Manhattan on the left. 100,000 people use it daily. Runs 24 hours every half hour till 2 a.m. Great way of seeing the Statue of Liberty and the skyline day or night. Why should you take that Staten Island ferry? Because it is... what? It's free. How come the rest of you don't know that? Only 2 people knew. It's free. Just walk on the boat. Yeah. Don't look at me that way. Yeah. All right. But don't worry. You don't have a wonderful tour guide like me on the Staten Island Ferry. You're getting a better deal. To our right, here in Upper New York Bay, we see Governor's Island. 172 acres, a former Army and Coast Guard base. So back to New York for $1 for a park development. Governor's Island is open, free of charge on weekends from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Notice the Governor's Island Ferry there, and the Governor's Island Ferry departs only 800 feet away to our left to the right of the Staten Island Ferry Terminal. Governor's Island, a wonderful destination. They got bicycle rentals there, a bar there, they have a beach there, they have lawns there to picnic and sunbathe. Also a beautiful vista for picture taking of the harbor, the skyline, and Statue of Liberty, and bicycle rentals. They have music there, so really a wonderful destination you should go to is Governor's Island. To our right is Red Hook, Brooklyn. Called Red Hook by the Dutch because it hooks into the East River and the soil, red clay, which is still there. That's Buttermilk Channel, separating Red Hook from Governor's Island. Legend has it that a schooner of a cargo of milk in the 1700s capsized in a bad storm there, expelling its cargo of milk into the water, hence Buttermilk Channel. To our left is the downtown heliport. This is where the president comes to town, his helicopter called Marine One. Notice the helicopter coming in for a landing. Behind the heliport is the beginning of the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Drive. The FDR Drive, built 1940, 12.5 miles in length, cars only, connecting the Battery of Manhattan to our left, the Dyckman Street in Upper Manhattan. Notice where the FDR Drive elevates. See where it goes up? Do you see that little beige building, the brown roof? That's the 1st Police Precinct, built in 1909, now housing the Police Museum. 35,000 police officers in New York Police Department, founded in 1845. Behind it, that black and yellow monstrosity, some people call it the Post-it building. That's the William Beaver, a condo built after 9/11 on William and Beaver Street, built by an architect when he was going to school, more as a taxi driver at night. So when he built the building, he colored the same building, the same colors as taxi cab, black and yellow. To our left, behind Pier 11, where you see the New York Waterway ferry boat going to, that's Wall Street. See that wide street right there? That's Wall Street, and you see the steeple of Trinity Church on Wall Street and Broadway. See the steeple, 280 feet in height, 1846, still an active Episcopal church. Tallest building from 1840s to 1890s here in New York. To our left, behind Wall Street, you see that white octagonish tower, the black antennas on the left side of its roof, the Farmers Trust Tower, 1932, 70 stories in height, where they filmed the movie Inside Man with Denzel Washington. Denzel grew up north of the Bronx in Mount Vernon, New York. To our left, behind the green glass Continental building built in the 1980s, we see another old skyscraper with a needle on top of it, the AIB Tower, 1932, 967 feet in height. The scaffolding to the right of it, that's where they're converting 1,000 units into condos. To our left, ladies and gentlemen, we see the Ambrose Lightship, 1907, used to patrol the waters off of New York Harbor. And to our left, the black and yellow crane sitting where Pier 17 was. Pier 17 no longer exists. It was flooded out by Superstorm Sandy and demolished this past summer. To our left, ladies and gentlemen, behind the Verizon building, we see the Wedding Cake Top building, the Municipal building, the Gilded Civic Fame on the main tower signifying Manhattan, the four smaller towers as face of the boroughs of Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and the Bronx. To the right of the Verizon building, we see that other tower, the Gilded Pyramid, the Federal Courthouse, 1936, the Southern District. To the right of it, the new Federal Courthouse, 1996. Behind both Federal Courthouses, that black and gray building, 26 Federal Plaza, where the FBI and Immigration is located. To our right is Fulton Ferry Landing in Brooklyn. That's where Robert Fulton launched a steamboat in 1814, where Kramer and Seinfeld took a dive in the East River. To our right, a portion of the 85-acre Brooklyn Bridge Park and Jane's Carousel spared from Superstorm Sandy. Behind the carousel was Red Brick Building's old coffee and tobacco warehouses from 1869. As we've just gone underneath the world-famous Brooklyn Bridge, the longest steel suspension bridge, went open in 1883, started in 1869, built by the engineering family, the Roebling family. The Gothic towers are 276 feet in height, the roadway is 120 feet off the water, the span 1,595 feet from tower to tower, 80% stone, 20% steel, built to the sand and landfill on the Manhattan side and the bedrock on the Brooklyn side. As we go underneath the third bridge connecting Brooklyn and Manhattan, the Manhattan Bridge, built 1909, connecting Canal Street and Chinatown to the left. That red brick tower is one Confucius Plaza, the downtown Brooklyn to the right. As we proceed up the East River, the East River is not really a river. It's a tidal strait with the Atlantic Ocean pushing up salt water, and then out way up north into the east, another arm of Atlantic Ocean, Long Island Sound. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all stand up. Let's all stand up. Turn around. Get out your cameras. Let's take pictures of the statue, Staten Island Ferry, the skyline, the Brooklyn Manhattan Bridge. Look at those cameras working behind us. Now, for you folks on the lower level, don't worry, you'll get your opportunity when we come down the river. But in the meantime, folks, look at those cameras working behind us. That's right, folks. Keep taking your pictures, please, and I'll continue with the tour. And to our right is Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn Land, Dutch word meaning broken land. 2.7 million people live in Brooklyn, New York. It's by itself the fourth largest city in the United States. Up till 1890, it was its own city. That's when they changed the city charter by a slim vote. So the Democrat machine get more votes and taxes from Brooklyn, and Brooklyn get more services than New York, and the coveted water rights from upstate New York. New York has excellent drinking water, by the way. Probably the best in the United States. Don't hesitate to drink out of the tap here. And that's when in 1898, the five boroughs of Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island make up the five boroughs or counties that make up New York City. Now in the landmark 300-acre Brooklyn Navy Yard, there's different industries occurring here. Tugboat companies here, fire department parks their vessels here, cement production, tech firms, small manufacturing firms, software firms, TV, movie production, and even Brooklyn has its own distillery for bourbon. Yeah, Brooklyn has its own bourbon, even though I haven't been able to find it, Kings County bourbon. Ladies and gentlemen, look to your left again and look at that skyline as Captain Dan takes us around Corlear's Hook in the Lower East Side. The Lower East Side to our left, there's always a rough, tough neighborhood, the first neighborhood that immigrants immigrate into. First the Irish in the 1840s and 50s, the Germans, the Italians, the Jews from Eastern Europe. After World War I, another European immigration wave. After World War II, the Puerto Ricans in 1965, with exclusionary rule rescinded, the Chinese immigration explosion in Lower Manhattan, largest Chinese community outside of mainland China. As we go underneath, the second bridge built connecting Brooklyn, Manhattan, the Williamsburg Bridge, built 1903, connecting Delancey Street and the Lower East Side to our left to Williamsburg, Brooklyn to the right. To our right, the old Domino Sugar Plant in Williamsburg, built 1890, went out of business in the 1990s, put a lot of people out of work here in the neighborhood. Williamsburg, Brooklyn to the right was always a rough, tough, working class neighborhood. If you remember the classic story and movie, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, life seen through the eyes of a 12-year-old girl living with an impoverished family in 1912 Williamsburg. Remember that? But now Williamsburg is the hottest, the hippest, the trendiest area to live and party in, possibly in the nation. It's hipster heaven over there. And the hipsters really relish their inaccessibility from the rest of the city. But you didn't say that 20 years ago, when most of the storefronts on Bedford Avenue were boarded up or abandoned. So the hipsters really like that, you know, that inaccessibility or isolation. That's why I don't recommend first-timers to New York to go to Williamsburg. Not that you don't belong there, but it's a pain in the neck to get in and out of there, either by subway or automobile. However, in Manhattan, there are wonderful neighborhoods for nightlife, and one of them to the left is the Lower East Side. Who remembers Harry Met Sally? Remember when she got excited about the food in Katz's Deli? Katz's Deli is still located on Houston and Ludlow Street. Ludlow, L-U-D-L-O-W, runs parallel to us further inland. And on Ludlow Street, a lot of great nightlife, like Arlene's Grocery, Stanton Social, the Delancey Tri-Level Club. Running parallel to Ludlow is Orchard Street. Orchard Street is a lot of Jewish retail stores. Most are gone now, replaced by independent boutiques, ladies, and nightlife. So if you want that one-of-a-kind look and that hot, edgy, trendy, but casual nightlife, the LES is for you and easy to get to. The Lower East Side, downtown F train. F is in Frank. From Rockefeller Center, and you get off either at the 2nd Avenue subway station or the Delancey Street subway station. To our left, another neighborhood transition is Alphabet City. Called Alphabet City because the avenues that run parallel behind the FDR Drive, Avenue D, C, B, then A. For generations, Alphabet City was synonymous with urban blight, decay, arson, drugs, violence, lawlessness, abandonment, riots in the street. But now Alphabet City's changed. Avenue A and Avenue B are now hopping strips for nightlife. Avenue B they call Avenue Bistro for all the restaurants in Avenue B. Further west in the East Village on 1st and 2nd Avenue, excellent ethnic restaurants and bars. For example, if you like Indian food, go to 6th Street and 1st Avenue for all the Indian restaurants. If you like Eastern European food, Ukrainian food, go to 2nd Avenue and 10th and 9th Street for all the Ukrainian restaurants, okay? In my opinion, the better restaurants are in the East Village and Alphabet City, the better nightlife in the Lower East Side below it. To our left, you see the smokestacks of the Con Edison plant on 14th Street. 14th Street, the widest part of Manhattan Island at 2.5 miles across. The first street to have electric street lamps put on in 1883. When Superstorm Sandy flooded out that Con Edison plant on October 29, 2012, it knocked out electrical power in Manhattan, south of 42nd Street for 12 days. Can you imagine all of what you've seen? No electricity for 12 days. No subway, traffic lights, street lamps, refrigeration, heat, hot water. Hospitals had to be evacuated. No stock exchange. That's what happened after Superstorm Sandy. Alphabet City damaged. The basements of the housing projects there flooded out. The water reached an Avenue C, so high in Avenue C that it reached the roofs of parked cars. But now 14th Street's now back up and running. It's a great retail shopping area. And ladies, on the boat, where are my shoe shoppers amongst us? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, for the silent majority, who said silent majority? I'm showing my age. Come on, you don't know who said silent majority? He just resigned 40 years ago. Nixon, you, the silent majority. No, don't remember that? Okay, I'm showing my age. Gee whiz, oh, John, you know, I'm only 55. Anyway, okay, yes, ladies, a lot of great shoe stores on 14th Street and Union Square, or 14th Street on Broadway. David Z, Aerosols, Aldo's, DSW, and the Nordstrom Rack, and the Farmers Market. So really, this is a fun spot to go to for the family and retail shopping, 14th Street and Union Square. Your downtown loops on Gray Line or City Sides, make a stop on 14th Street. All right, let's look to our right. I'm showing my age. Gee whiz. I guess so. Anyway, it's scary. To our right, this is Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Further in this part of Brooklyn is a big Polish community. Now look to your right where you see that tugboat right there in that inlet. That's Newtown Creek. Newtown Creek separating Brooklyn, the most popular of the five boroughs, from Queens, the largest of the five boroughs in the area. Notice that green glass tower that says City Core on top of it, tallest building in Queens, 645 feet in height. Bill bribery and kickback money in the 1980s. New York in the 1980s, I don't miss it. Now coming up on our right, notice all these high rises in Long Island City and Queens. All this property owned by Pepsi Cola, sold in the 1990s for development for a lot of money. In fact, if you look behind the New York Waterway ferry boat, behind it you can see the red Pepsi Cola sign that's been landmarked. Further up the East River, that's the 59th Street Bridge built in 1909, connecting 59th Street and 3rd Avenue on the left of Manhattan where Bloomingdale's is located to Long Island City and Queens on the right. Roosevelt Island underneath the 59th Street Bridge. 19 bridges emanate out of Manhattan. Getting back to Manhattan, does everybody see the green glass United Nations Secretariat building, the white stripe down the south wing? 1953, 540 feet in height. To the right of it, the 90-story Trump World Tower. Derek Jeter of the New York Yankees baseball team sold his penthouse apartment there last year for $15 million. That's on 49th Street and 1st Avenue. To the left of the UN or behind it, or to the left of it, you see those two little green towers right there? They look like two green thimbles. That's the top of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, 1932, 625 feet in height, 49th Street and Park Avenue, where the president stays overnight and visiting UN dignitaries. Of course, to our right, my favorite building in New York, the Chrysler Building. Most beautiful building in my opinion. The Chrysler Building, 1,048 feet in height, tallest building before the Empire State Building in 1930. That was the building that eclipsed the Bank of Manhattan Tower the next day in 1930. Finest nickel plate stainless steel, Art Deco design. The gargoyles sticking out from either side representing ornaments of 1929 Chrysler cars, located on 42nd Street and Lexington Avenue. That flat roof building behind it that says MetLife on it was the old Pan Am building, 1963, 803 feet in height, used to launch and land helicopters from its rooftop till 1977. When one crashed on the roof, killed a number of people, they don't do that no more. And of course, to our right, the Empire State Building, 1,454 feet in height, 102 stories, Indiana limestone holding up 10 million bricks, 6,514 windows, 2.5 million feet of electrical wire, 17 million feet of telephone wire, 120 miles of plumbing pipe, 189 miles of steel skeleton, 1,850 steps. They have a race up them steps every February. A Norwegian runner won the race last February in 10 minutes and 6 seconds. Does anybody know the Empire State Building was hit by an airplane? In 1945, a B-25 bomber flew into the right side on the north side on the 79th floor, killing 14. Rainy, foggy morning, the pilot low on fuel, disoriented, didn't see up a third of the building. So well built the Empire State Building, the structural integrity was not compromised. The building was reopened later that week. Last elevator goes up at 1 o'clock in the morning. If you wish to buy tickets for the Empire State Building or my favorite observation deck, the top of the Rock, which is open till 11 o'clock at night, or for Broadway shows, off-Broadway shows are available. Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, helicopter tours, and the bus tickets for the Woodbury Common Shopping Outlet, upstate for you outlet shoppers. You may do so at our Pier 78 ticket window. So before you leave Pier 78 after the boat ride, you can inquire about those other activities at our Pier 78 ticket window, where our lovely hostesses, Chris and Z, will help you there. And to our right, in the foreground, behind the white yacht right there, you see these 4 brown residential towers of Waterside Plaza. Can you imagine being trapped on your upper floor apartment because the first 2 stories are underwater from Superstorm Sandy? Yes, indeed. All right, now behind Waterside Plaza, you're going to notice 2 unusual buildings. One, 24-carat gilded top building right there on 27th Street, Madison Avenue. The New York Life Insurance Building, 1927 on 27th Street, Madison Avenue. To the left of it, you're going to see a white tower with a gilded globe and spike on top of it. That's the MetLife Insurance Tower, tallest building from 1909 to 1913 at 700 feet in height. So within a mile of each other, you got the 3 tallest buildings in their respective eras. MetLife in 1909, Chrysler in 1930, Empire State Building 1931. Now getting back to the MetLife Insurance Tower and the New York Life Insurance Building, the Gilded Pyramid, that's the Flatiron District. The Flatiron District, voted by New Yorkers their favorite shopping district. Why? Because tourists don't go there. Well, I think that's unfair. We depend on the tourist trade here. So if you don't want to deal with that madness or craziness at Macy's or Herald Square, go where New Yorkers go, the Flatiron District, specifically Fifth Avenue, from 27th down to 14th Street. All the stores are well represented up and down Fifth Avenue from 27th down to 14th Street, and find places to dine on and off of Fifth Avenue from 27th down to 14th Street. Ladies, remember the shoe stores on 14th Street and Union Square. To our right in the foreground, these are non-housing projects like Alphabet City. These are private developments built after World War II for the returning GI. Peter Cooper Village on the right, Stuyvesant Town on the left, named after the early Dutch governors. Behind Stuyvesant Town on 14th Street and Union Square, you see that white tower staying up by itself with the clocks on either side. That's the Con Edison Tower, 1926, 135 feet in height. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now proceeding down the East River, and our next destination in 10 to 12 minutes will be for the Statue of Liberty. So, I'm going to take a little break, and I'm going to give you a break by not yelling at you for a few minutes. So why don't you go downstairs, use the rear stairwell, visit the snack stand downstairs for your refreshments, or visit the restroom if you have to. Again, my name is John, I'm your tour guide. If you have any questions to ask me, I'm on the upper level wearing a red polo shirt and black cargo shorts. Any questions at all, feel free to approach me, and I'll continue the tour in a few minutes. Thank you very much.
ভাই ওখানে নিয়ে যাবে না হ্যাঁ কেন নামছে নাকি সবাই নাকি হ্যাঁ